Hi, my name is Audree Lee, Certified Holistic Health Practitioner, and today I want to share with you a topic letting you know the real deal about fat or oils. And I just want you to know that although we think that oils are really good for us because we use them all the time, I want to tell you some underlying currents that are happening with all the fat that we're eating. Now, fat is good for us and we need it considering that our brains are full of fat, but the type of fat that you choose could be toxic and dangerous to your health. Let's talk about some of those. First, let's talk about the saturated fat. Now, we're talking about saturated fat that comes a lot of times from meats. And don't get me wrong, I want people to meet me halfway when it comes to meat because, believe it or not, we're eating way too much when we eat it. And so because of it, we are opening the doors to a lot of the toxic and dangerous things that are happening inside of our body, but also to our health, like diabetes, heart disease, and even some cancers. But if you can be safe and be mindful that there's a portion control that you can know that that's a better thing to think about when it comes to eating these saturated fats, you'll be well on your way to a healthier place. So when we're talking about fats, there are good fats and bad fats. And when we're talking about bad fats, most of us already know, like fried food, fried chicken, fried vegetables, fried anything. They're fried in everything from candy to you name it. But I have a phrase that I share with my students: Jesus didn't fry, and neither do I. Today, now that they have air fryers, we don't have to fry like we used to. And I'm not telling that you have to bake all your food, but we have to be mindful that if we want optimal health and good health in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and over, we do have to be mindful of the fat that we're using. Now, I did say fats are good for you, didn't I? Well, let me give you some good fats that you definitely want to be mindful of that are better for you than some of the ones that we just talked about. I'm talking about fats that come from real food, like your nuts. They're all full of fat, but make sure that you eat your nuts raw and you don't cook them. I'm talking about the roasted and toasted and all of those kinds of nuts. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about raw almonds, raw walnuts, which is really good brain food. If you look at a walnut, it kind of looks like your brain. Any of the ones that you like, those are the ones that you should eat. And even to take it up higher, especially for men that may be thinking about their prostate, we want to eat those pumpkin seeds. Yep, those pimentos are really, really good for us, but we want to use them raw, as well as sesame seeds or anything that's in a seed form, a hemp seed, a chia seed. Those not only are high in protein, but they're also good fats for our body. And so when you think about fats, I want you to think about the food that you're eating and where the food comes from. That's what we really want to think about first. And if we could pass this down to our children, we won't have chubby children that turn into chubby adults, because sometimes that's exactly what happens. We create the problem that we want to be delivered from. And so fat is the thing that we want to be mindful of. Let me tell you some other places that fat may be hiding. That would be dairy. And I tell people that dairy is actually scary. And although dairy is a food that comes from an animal that we feel it's really good for us, but it carries a lot of fat, whether it's regular milk or 2% or even 1%. That just means that there's less fat in it. Why not swap to something like a plant-based milk called nut milks, which comes from the almonds, even coconut milk. All those are really good fats for our body. And guess what? Those good fats that I'm talking about, they actually help you to trim down. Yep, trim your body down, because they know exactly what your body needs, because the body recognizes them and the body can transform itself on its own. So we want to be mindful of that. I want to give you a visual about some of these bad fats too that come in a form of liquid called trans fats. You may have heard them, or hydrogenated. Now, these hydrogenated oils that we use to cook our food can be really, really dangerous. And having wrote a program called the 90 Days of Purpose, where I've taught people for over 25 years how to transform their plates and transform their health while they do it, this is a class where we were able to kind of pull a dead food off and put a live food in. And so we show them how to eat some better oils, even if they're going to take them in their body. So when we talk about frying food, we're actually changing the whole molecular structure of the oil, which then changes the molecules or the information that goes into the body, so the body doesn't recognize it that way. But if we would take that oil and use it after we cook it, that means sauteing in water, and sauteing in broths and things, then we can actually get a better quality of food, and we don't have to worry about getting or leaving out our fat. So like a trans fat from a vegetable oil, what is that anyway? And what kind of vegetable is even in there? I always wondered that question. Or another oil, canola. Kahoo? Where is that coming from? That's an oil that's actually a man-made oil, and we absolutely, definitely, positively should not have it in our home. But olive oils are good, and just notice there's different types. We have the cold press, and we want to make sure it's organic. And when it's a good olive oil, it's actually green in color. It comes in a really stable, dark container, and sometimes when you look at those oils, we know that if you can buy olive oil light and dark, wouldn't you wonder what's the difference in them? I do. I know that if they're a lighter oil, that the pressing has been done 4 to 5 times, and so it doesn't have all the nutritional value in it. And we know if we've gone to an Italian restaurant or even to Italy, that's the best olive oil ever. But we don't want to use all these oils and make them toxic for our body. So that's why I recommend that you use them after you do your food, because we don't monitor when we use them in cooking. We don't really put a teaspoon or a tablespoon. We kind of just turn the bottle up, don't we? And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we stay safe at the plate by being mindful of what we're actually putting on our plate. So when I think about some of these oils too, I think about how we put them all in our salads, because we want to eat healthy, so we got a salad. But then we kill a salad by putting 500 calories of oil on our plate. No, animals don't have to put salad dressing on their leaves, and neither should we. We can use it a little bit more sparingly and be mindful that when we're talking about diseases, because oils can contribute to some of the diseases that we have, like diabetes and cancers and all those things. When they tell us that diabetes problems come from sugar, because sometimes it does somewhat, but how about thinking about the opening in the pancreas or in the body where the fat has clogged it up because we eat so much of it? That's something that when you start removing them, you can undo that vicious thing that we created in our body by creating a better environment for when we eat our food. So when you do eat your oils, make sure you're mindful, as I mentioned, that it does come from a food, that you do know the source, and that you definitely are not bringing in trans fats. And remember, fried food is not something you definitely want to do on a regular basis. But if you decide to do those foods fried, like your favorite French fry, because I love French fries too, I use my air fryer. And because I want to be conscious as I grow old gracefully, that I can live long, live strong, and understand what I'm doing to get there. I thank you for joining me today, and I hope that you've enjoyed this information and message about fat, because fat is really not where it's at. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where we'll have more information for you to enjoy.